What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and want to wish you, in case I don't see you between now and then, a very Merry Christmas from me and my family to you and yours. Hope it's happy, hope it's jolly, hope it's holly, hope it's whatever. I hope that you are feeling holly and jolly on the heels of one of the more incredible Dallas Cowboys wins in recent memory. This is my Dallas Cowboys postgame show, which you can watch exclusively in the Bleacher Report app, the very best app in the world of sports. I use it to keep tabs on all my favorite sports teams, including my Arizona State Sun Devils. Forks up. That's right. Bring on those losers from Austin. We're going to have a great time in the Peach Bowl. But we're here today to talk about those losers in Arlington, those losers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, 26-24, the final score. The day began very difficult for the Cowboys, obviously. In a technical sense, obviously, we all knew that this team was not going to go to the playoffs in all likelihood, but in a formal sense, in a literal sense, in a technical, mathematical sense, the Dallas Cowboys were officially eliminated from playoff contention, what with the Washington Commanders win in Landover against the losers from Philadelphia, known as the Eagles. And look, the Cowboys have nobody but themselves to blame for this. We know this. We understand this. We've talked about it a lot all season long here in the Bleacher Report app. And it doesn't make it any, more frustrating or less frustrating. The season kind of is what it is at this point in time. And so I think it would have been understandable is not maybe the best way to put it, but certainly believable if the Cowboys had come out on Sunday Night Football against the Buccaneers and laid this egg. In fact, I was kind of killing them all day long on Twitter. And you can follow me, by the way, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com is where you can email me as well. I was kind of killing the Cowboys and really killing the NFL for not flexing this game out because, look, I understand it's the Cowboys and I understand, they're always going to be a draw, and I'm very grateful for that, right? I'm very grateful to have a job because of the attention that the Cowboys command, but it's not a good look for your product, right? If you're the NFL and you have a team who's mathematically eliminated playing on your brightest stage, because that's what Sunday Night Football is in Week 16. But holy crap, a couple of things here. The Cowboys played with their hair on fire. I thought Chris Collinsworth was going to pass out. I mean, Chris Collinsworth was into this game, and how could he not be? This was maybe the most incredible Dallas Cowboys win of the season if we just assess them and analyze them in their own individual vacuums. It was dramatic. It was chaotic. It was domination. The score really doesn't reflect just how thoroughly the Cowboys kicked the Bucs' ass. This was a one-way decision for the most part. Did the Cowboys kind of fold up and not get things done near the end and, punt the ball away and give Tampa another shot to kind of get back in this, on more than one occasion? Certainly. But I think that, the Cowboys played a certain way in this game. The Cowboys played a certain type of game because they knew they were not going to be able to run the ball. We'll get into the numbers in a moment here. And they trusted Cooper Rush. They trusted their defense. And look, I have said a lot about Mike Zimmer, and I stand by everything I said. I stand by the fact that the process of how we got here was probably not the wisest. I don't think that the Cowboys saw something that nobody else saw. I think the Cowboys were lazy and just called up their friend. That being said, Mike Zimmer still can kind of do it. Mike Zimmer still can kind of coach him up, still can kind of get in the kitchen and cook up a meal or two. Holy crap. No Trayvon Diggs, no DeMarcus Lawrence. I know that's been documented and chronicled over and over and over again. This was when we think back on this era of who the Cowboys are defensively, certainly the Micah Parsons era, and he hit 50 sacks tonight, my fellow Bleacher Report content creator, Micah Parsons, El Presidente, right? We think about who they've been. We think about the most dominant performances they've had in these last now almost 4 full seasons. This is up there. This is up at the very, very, very top. And the Cowboys had another takeaway in this game. That's 8 consecutive games in which the Cowboys have had a turnover at this point in time. This was amazing. It really, really, really was. I see you all in the chat. See you, DZ, D. Hines, wishing me a Merry Christmas. It's great to hear. Holiday spirit all around. Hope you guys have something delicious planned for Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, whenever it is you eat. I'm going to smoke a leg of lamb. I'm pretty pumped about this. If anybody has any tips, I'm following the meat church recipe, but if anybody has any tips, let me know. C. Davis 115 says, Jerry has too much of an ego to tank. How much further does this pointless win push us back in the draft? Okay, let's get to that, C. Davis 115, because it's fair. It's fair for all of us as fans to sit here and say, I want them to lose because this season is over. In fact, as you noted, RJ, up top, it was literally made to be over as of Sunday afternoon when the Commanders won. The Cowboys were mathematically officially eliminated from the playoffs. I get that. I get that we want them to tank. But you know what I want more than to tank? And I know that I'm going to sound super cliche and super Friday Night Lightsy, and I hate that, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. I care more about a winning culture. I care more about having the right dudes. I care more about guys who will stand tall and will go 10 rounds and will, make something out of it. Dude, they have won 4 of their last 5. Consider that when they got their asses kicked in this building by the Houston Texans on Monday Night Football, I was in that building as well that night with my dad. They were 3-7. They were 3-7, and we were all very rightfully casting stones, hurling insults, throwing tomatoes because they were one of the worst teams in the NFL. They were 3-7. Okay, think about that for a second. They were 3-7, and they are 4-1 since, and we can make a we don't have to move a lot of goalposts to say that they could be winners of their last 5. If Amani Oruwariye doesn't touch the ball on the punt and everything, we don't have to relitigate that, but you get my point. It is not difficult to suggest that they could have won 5 of their last 5 and then be getting ready for we'll see what happens against the Eagles. And I say that because we don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Hurts and all that sort of stuff. Certainly hope he's doing okay. I mean, we would be saying like, man, they could sneak into this 3rd wild card spot, right? And so it's unfortunate that they dug too deep of a hole that they can't get out of it. But what I care more about is this team not folding, because like you, C. Davis 115, I have watched this team for a long time. And you know what I have seen? I have seen them fold a lot. I have seen them fold a lot. And so to see them say, to hell with folding, man, like we're going to battle. And if we have a worse draft pick, cool. So what? And you know what? The draft stuff, and look, I don't mean to poo-poo the draft process because I love it. I'm just as invested as all of you. I enjoy all the mocks. I enjoy all the material. I enjoy studying it and everything like that. But you know what? I mean, are we really going to, like moan and groan and whine and pout over the difference between 14 and 17 overall? I understand that there's a legitimate case to that, and I don't mean to speak out of both sides of my mouth, okay? I understand that, and I get it, and I acknowledge it. But can we also say that maybe it's okay, right? Like maybe if the front office is going to take a Mazi Smith anyway, it'll be fine. I mean, we regard this team, and this is a whole different subject, right, than the game that we're talking about here. And the Cowboys have earned a very legitimate reputation as far as being able to draft in the first round and finding these late round draft picks to hit like DaRon Bland, who had that incredible takeaway near the end of the game that obviously won it. But they have their share of misses. They have their share of whiffs, and not just, with their 2nd round pick that they just love to set on fire. They have their share of misses and whiffs when it comes to the first round. Tyler Guyton is not somebody who has impressed us as of late, and there's still a lot of time there. Obviously, Mazi Smith kind of speaks for itself at this point in time. I mean, so if the difference is we don't have to, blindly hand over complete, total, unequivocal trust, and in the process, they can also, build something to hopefully build upon in the future. Dude, respect. I see you, though. C. Davis 115 says, could have had a top 10 pick. I mean, big difference if you're asking me, but opinions differ. Sure, but you're playing God too much there, C. Davis 115. You're playing God to say, yeah, well, they could have had a top 10 pick if they had just lost out when they were 3-7. Totally, absolutely. But you know what? You know who I didn't really know that I wanted back on this team when they were 3-7? I didn't really know that I wanted Mike Zimmer back on this team. I didn't really know that I wanted Nick Vigil around. I didn't really know that Maris Liufau was this lurking badass, right? Like, I really didn't know that DaRon Bland could come back from the injury and be legitimate, right? And I'm not trying to make this a bigger point than it actually is, but if we had folded when everything looked really bad, and to be very clear, it was more than bad. It was Armageddon level catastrophe that we were dealing with here just 6 weeks ago, right? But if we had folded then, we wouldn't have learned all this information. We wouldn't have learned, that Luke Schoonmaker might be something to actually work with, right? We wouldn't have learned that Rico Dowdle could be a serviceable running back in the NFL and for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't mean to advocate for the Cowboys bringing him back and foregoing anybody else, unless you're an Ashton Genty fan. I don't want to do that. But, I mean, you get my point here. We have learned a lot as a result of what they're doing that is very valuable. Now, it's up to you, C. Davis 115, or whoever you are, to determine and to weigh it out as to whether or not you think that value is more than the loss, the net loss in draft order. Maybe you don't feel that way, and that's fine. But I think that learning who these players are and learning who this coaching staff is well worth the dip in 8-9 spots that it ultimately probably was, because they were never going to finish 3-14. I think we can all obviously, Agree with that. DZ55 says, like you said, I'd rather have a winning culture. I agree with that. D Hines 4 says, I 100% agree with you, RJ. Why would anyone want to tank? Guys are playing, either stay here or play somewhere else. They have that dog in them. It will bode well for next season. JP Harbs 104 says, if it's not a top 3 pick, it doesn't matter. That's a great point. Now, to be clear, I would still rather have a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick, right? Like, I mean, I think we agree here, but yeah, like, you know, unless you're in that true territory, like we are sitting here in a moment where the Las Vegas Raiders have had a horrible season and they just screwed themselves, right? They just screwed themselves by winning today and taking themselves out of territory to legitimately rebuild who they are as a franchise. If you want to talk about that team failing their tank operation, that's fine. But this Cowboys team isn't in that moment, right? The difference in player who you're ultimately going to get or would have gotten or whatever isn't the same here because it isn't an apples to apples situation. I'm not trying to tell you the Cowboys are wonderful or perfect or whatever, but it's not exactly the same exact sort of situation. All right, let's see here. D Hines 4 says, I don't agree with the ownership. Trey Jones is a terrible general manager. We have players on this team, just the philosophy from the head coach and the owner. Okay. Let's put the stats up on the screen because this was absurd. I mean, this really, truly was absurd. I almost clicked the wrong thing. That would have been terrible. I had difficulties getting off the ground again here. I don't know what's going on with my internet lately, but here we go. What you're looking at here is the Dallas Cowboys domination of the Tampa Bay losers, the Buccaneers, 26-24, the final score. I mentioned that Cooper Rush was clearly the plan for the Cowboys. They clearly entered this game believing that that was how they were going to win. And I think that they ultimately played that out. He came out firing early on, and we'll get to the receivers in a moment, but 26 of 35, 292 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, although, man, did he try at the very end. From a rushing standpoint, a trip all the way back down to earth for Rico Dowdle. 13 carries for only 23 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. We do have the mandatory carry for Zeke Elliott, of course. This one, though, goes for a single yard, only because there was only 1 yard separating the Cowboys from the end zone at that moment in time. So 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Congratulations to Zeke. Cavante Turpin, 3 carries for 11 yards. I mentioned the receivers. CeeDee Lamb, and that's the other thing here. Let me get this off your screen for a moment here. I was reminded of this by somebody on Twitter a little while ago, and apologies if it was you because I don't totally remember. But if you recall, obviously, it was not great for CeeDee Lamb relative to perception among the fan base around the peak of this season's chaos, right? Like, we agree that this team is bad and that they have been bad, but we certainly agree that there was a stretch of time where it was just like, how is this happening? It was just impossible how bad they were. I mean, if I look at things here, it was probably from around that Saints game, I think, kind of took us by surprise in terms of exactly how bad it was. The Ravens loss obviously was not great. And then that Lions loss, the Niners lost, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Texans. The Ravens came a little bit before then, to be totally clear. And my point about whoever it reminded me was when the Cowboys lost to the Ravens, CeeDee was accused by people in the fan base of having poor body language and, kind of crap like that. And it was, I don't know if it was fair, but it was certainly not great body language, right? Like, you could have had that conversation and there were people really upset about the contract and whatever. This kind of goes back to, playing hard and seeing what you're made of and things like that. Dude, I think we would all die for CeeDee right now, right? Like, I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think, like, we're standing on desks, you know what I mean, in poetry class. Like, CeeDee is a dude. Like, CeeDee is a baller, man. To be killing it the way he is with the shoulder issue and to be like seeking physical contact. And I thought Chris Collinsworth did a great job of giving CeeDee his flowers in that moment. I mean, respect. Like, this team, the people are going to say what they're going to say because the drought is going to turn 30 years old officially because the Cowboys are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs now. But that being said, the Cowboys have a future, a possible future, because CeeDee Lamb is on the team, because Micah Parsons is on the team. I mean, consider that it was Micah Parsons. Again, shout out to my, Bleacher Report content creator peer around here. It was Micah Parsons who said when, like, the fire was engulfing everything, he was like, don't worry, like, I'm back. I got this. And did he, like, get this in the sense that they're going to the playoffs? Did they win the division? Are they going to win the Super Bowl? No, obviously not. We know that. But did he get this in terms of kind of calling his shot and shooting his shot and making his shot? Absolutely. Like, think about how cool that is. Like, we've been on the wrong end of that. Like, remember, Aaron Rodgers is relax, and remember, we're going to run the table. He said that, and they did that, and it was cool. It was objectively cool, but it happened to us, and so we were really pissed off and sore and just mad about it all, right? But Micah Parsons said, you know what? I got this. And he came in, he's been amazing. The defense has been incredible since Micah Parsons not only said that, but returned. And CeeDee Lamb has been that guy on the offensive side of the ball. CeeDee has all the reason in the world to quit. I don't think any of us want to exonerate quitting, but if you did, if you were to excuse quitting for whatever, reason, I think it would be fair or easy to build a case for CeeDee, right? Well, his quarterback's out. He's got no other wide receivers, no other pass catchers really to kind of make things happen across from him. He's running into double coverage each and every single play. His shoulders hurt. I mean, they barely win in games at home, right? They were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. Just put this dude on ice, right? Like, who among us even said that today? I'm sure that you or your friend or your family member or somebody who who sent you a text message that, you know what, dude, just take away CeeDee's helmet. Just sit him down. Let's just move forward to 2025. And you know what CeeDee said? He said, to hell with that. To hell with that, because that's not who I am. That's not who we are. That's not how we're going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And what did CeeDee do? I almost clicked the wrong thing again. It's really amazing. You would think that I would understand this by now. CeeDee, 7 catches off of 8 targets. 7 off of 8 for a $105. Brandon Cooks, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 48 yards. Ryan Flournoy coming alive. Look at that. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 41 yards. Jake Ferguson, not quite as accurate of a connection, but man, just again, a dog, like really fighting. I mean, we've always said that about Jake Ferguson, obviously. 6 catches off of 9 targets, 40 yards. Rico Dowdle, a little bit more production outside of just the run game. Jalen Tolbert with the incredible touchdown. I mean, Jalen Tolbert, look, my thing on Jalen Tolbert, and let's get this off your screen. I think that Jalen Tolbert has tried very hard to be a serviceable member of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that goes without saying. I think his effort is all the way there. But what the Cowboys have done foolishly and irresponsibly twice in 3 years is count on him to develop into a proper wingman for CeeDee Lamb. It's just not going to happen. And that's okay, right? That's okay. Let's just stop pretending that it's going to happen because you're only hurting yourself in that process. This is a tweet from Pat Doney of NBC5 in Dallas. Jerry Jones's first comments after the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, this is a video. Doesn't help me, Pat. Come on. Somebody have the text for me available here so I can read this out loud to all the wonderful people who are with us here. Let's see here. Looking for his quotes. Jerry credited Mike McCarthy a ton for tonight's win over Tampa Bay. Okay. This is Jerry's line. Shout out to ESPN's Todd Archer. Mike McCarthy, he just won't let them not think they're not playing for a Super Bowl out there. Now, I think that line's a little bit silly. I see you, by the way, JP Harbs 04. Any update on the Tolbert finger? I don't see an update yet, but I'm constantly scanning things. So don't worry. But either way, now I do see a quote. Shout out to Brianna Dix, who used to cover the Cowboys, does a great job, great friend of Blogging the Boys, now covers the Bucs for their team website. But think about this. The Bucs are obviously in contention for their own division and whatever. And I don't mean to launch the debate and discussion about division winners and home playoff games and all that sort of stuff, because we've just come off of people being so ungrateful for an awesome weekend of college football playoffs. I know the games weren't awesome, but it was still awesome. All right. Just be happy to have football and cool football and, big time football and matchups we don't always see. Whatever. I'm off that soapbox. That being said, this Bucs team, who a lot of people, 4 hours ago were like, I tell you what, this Bucs team, they got something else. This Bucs team, all right, who had won 4 games in a row. This Bucs team had won 4 games in a row coming into this game. They were underdogs. I'm sorry, favorites. They were road favorites at AT&T Stadium, where we were reminded that Baker Mayfield not only won the Big 12, who won the Big 12 recently, that's right, but also won a state championship. And you know what the Cowboys said? That's cute. It's adorable. We're the Dallas Cowboys, and we're just not going to stand for that. And I don't know if I agree with the whole, Mike McCarthy won't let them believe that they're not playing for Super Bowl. But I tell you what I do believe. I believe that Mike McCarthy has got something going on. I do. And I think that this has happened with coaches in the past. Look, the Colts very infamously fought for Chuck Pagano and got him to come back. That's just the first example that came to mind. Right? We can think of examples where, teams have advocated for their coach to come back for another year, and it's a great story. And, they go to the owner's office and, they Rudy style, put their, jerseys on or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes change is necessary, and that's okay. But I don't know that change is necessary here. I mean, who else could do this? And look, I'll tell you what, the fact that Chris Collinsworth openly pontificated, maybe you didn't see or hear this, maybe you were watching the game at a restaurant or a bar or a watch party or something, or just you had the game on mute for whatever reason. But if you did not hear, Chris Collinsworth near the end of this game was openly kind of just thinking and talking about how it's very difficult to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, to be clear, you know this, and I know this, but we're not Chris Collinsworth. We don't have a microphone in front of our face every Sunday evening throughout the fall and winter talking to people about this game, this league, this sport, right? The fact that Chris Collinsworth would use the platform that he has to specifically say, you know what, it's not easy to coach here. And what Mike McCarthy is doing is really special. I do think that I think it's easy to pick on Mike McCarthy. I think he lost a very public PR battle to Aaron Rodgers many moons ago, and people made up their mind about him then, and they won't get off of it. And I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not advocating for every decision he's ever made. But if you think the grass is greener, my friend, I've got something, some news to break to you. It might be. It could be. But you know what it could be? It could be a boat. Right? It could be a boat in the mystery box. We kind of have the boat. I'm not saying it's the SS Minnow Johnson or the Nina or the Pinta. The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa is right. It was the Pinta, right? The second one. You get my point. Like, there is a boat here. The Cowboys have a boat. And I think it would be foolish to just throw this baby out with the bathwater because, again, what they're doing here is really impressive. Think about their last 4 wins. People will poo-poo them all, and people will now watch how the tide turns. Tomorrow, Monday morning on the national shows, it'll be Tampa sucks, man. Tampa's washed. This is Michael Penix Jr.'s division, right? Like, people have been saying that all season long. The Bucs had won 4 games in a row, and the Cowboys squashed them like a bug. The Panthers, a week ago, were kind of hot and were kind of cute and damn near beat the Eagles the week before and just didn't pull it off at the very end. And the Cowboys beat them, and all of a sudden they're trash again. The Cowboys beat the Commanders team that eliminated them from the playoffs today. Again, in a formal sense, right? Understand that the Commanders didn't actually eliminate the Cowboys like on a one-on-one basis thing, but they beat that team on the road in Landover. And that was the first win after this chaos, right? Like when everything was collapsing in front of them. The Giants one, I'll give you. The Giants stink. I got nothing to say for you. The only thing we can kind of say to gloss up the Giants win is that it came on a short week and the Cowboys took care of business. So, I mean, that they have, and they almost beat the Bengals. And not only did they almost beat the Bengals, but they really limited the Bengals offensively. Did they stop them completely? Absolutely not, because we're seeing this amazing season from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and their entire offense. But they kind of put the clamps on Cincinnati in a way that's relative to what clamps are for them at this moment in time. So, no, I don't want to get rid of Mike McCarthy. I don't. If you could guarantee me that Ben Johnson will coach this team, absolutely, because I want Dak Prescott faking a fumble and Ashton Genty, whoever it is, faking falling on the ground to recover it next year. I just don't think that's going to happen. And the other kind of, mystery box that we had a chance at here was Bill Belichick, and he's off in Chapel Hill. So, no, I don't want to move on from Mike McCarthy kind of in general based on what we're seeing here, but especially because the would-be option is what, like Mike Vrabel? Like, that's what we're doing this for here? We're going to go through this entire song and dance for Mike Vrabel? It just seems a little bit silly to me, and it seems a little bit like being dramatic to be dramatic. And I would know, because I can be kind of dramatic at times when it comes to this stuff. C. Davis 115 says coaching in Green Bay versus Dallas is 2 different situations completely. That might be true, but it is also uniquely challenging in kind of the same way. Obviously not the exact same way, but Green Bay is not a walk in the park either. D. Hines 4 says Mike McCarthy's coming back. No other coach wants to deal with the Joneses. I don't disagree with that. Van Manser says keep the coaching staff, need a new offensive coordinator. I'm also not, if that's the give that I have to make, the concession I have to make, then okay, fine. But I don't know that I'm ready to throw away the offensive coordinator. I don't know that I'm ready to get rid of Mike McCarthy as the offensive play caller. Again, I'm not, that's probably the portion of things that I'm least confident in being able to defend. But let's also remember the totality of everything and not just the season, because they were really bad. I mean, they were 3-5 with Dak Prescott, which is worth mentioning. But the front office also did nothing. I mean, is Mike Vrabel going to be better when the Cowboys are the last team to sign an external free agent? Is Mike Vrabel, and I'm sorry to pick on Mike Vrabel here, but he's kind of a placeholder, a figurehead for the point that I'm trying to make. Is anybody else going to be any better when the Cowboys don't do anything in free agency? No, that same problem is going to exist. So I don't think it's exactly fair to evaluate who Mike McCarthy is or was or would be or might have been or potentially was at this moment in time, because this front office sucks. I mean, like, it might be the worst one in the NFL. And that he has overcome that to the point that he has is, impressive enough in and of itself. He's also dug his grave on some of these things. Again, I'm not saying or painting a picture that he's some victim here, but I tell you what they did tonight was really impressive. This Buccaneers team had a chance to come in and take their division and really separate themselves in the NFC South, and the Cowboys said no. And Mike Zimmer said no, and I've already eaten my crow there. So that's why I'm asking us all to kind of pass the crow around a little bit here. Maybe you have some to eat on Mike McCarthy. C. Davis 115 says, to counter your point from McCarthy, a previous Super Bowl winning head coach has never won a second one with a different team. Not that McCarthy is bad because he's not, but the stats work against that narrative. That's fine, but that's like saying, oh, I'm not going to bet on Patrick Mahomes doing another Super Bowl because it's so rare that a singular quarterback wins 4. Only 2 have ever done it, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, just because it's never happened before doesn't really serve as a great argument in my mind. I get your point, certainly, but he's come closer than I think a lot of other coaches have. Again, not advocating for Mike McCarthy in that sense. S. Master Flashes, Mike McCarthy has done this with no quarterback, 1 wide receiver, no tight end, a patchwork offensive line, and an undrafted free agent running back. Again, let's scream it from the mountaintops. Not saying that, wow, like, let's worship Mike McCarthy here, because if we're going to worship anyone right now, it needs to be Jordan Lewis, because holy crap, man alive. I tweeted this as the game was ending. I once asked Jordan Lewis, a rookie Jordan Lewis, this was 2017. So put your mind in that spot, please, because it's not going to make a ton of sense for a moment. But I had seen him posting a lot about playing NBA 2K, and him and Chidobe Awuzie would play a lot of 2K with each other. So I was just kind of curious, how he played. I love to play sports games. Like, are you playing franchise mode? You building a team? What's your cup of tea? I was just kind of curious. And so I asked Jordan Lewis, the rookie in 2017, I said, so what do you do on 2K? So I've got a career. Okay, cool. Who are you? Because, you can kind of choose. I know that different storylines have been different, but whatever. So I'm on the Suns. And I was like, why? I mean, like, why are you on the Suns, dude? Again, this was 2017. It was a very different, time for Phoenix. And he just said, I want to get my minutes. And he said it with such confidence, right? He said it with such confidence that I kind of thought to myself, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I was just LeBroning this. Like, I was just flocking to great teams and hoping to kind of ride everybody's coattails. Again, not a shot at LeBron. Everybody relax. But it made sense, right? Like, I never really thought of it that way. Maybe I just was approaching video games the wrong way. And dude, Jordan Lewis is that guy. He's just that dog. He is that dude who wants to work, who wants an opportunity, who's going to make sure he makes the most out of his opportunity. We're all going to remember the interception because it was unbelievable and it was incredible and it was one of the most amazing things that I think we've ever seen. But the fight, Jordan Lewis is the poster for who they've been over the last 5 weeks. He is the poster for that want to, that can do, that non-give up, that non-quit, that spirit, that disposition, whatever you want to call it. Jordan Lewis is that. And that's why I'm okay. I would prefer a better draft pick, obviously. I think that goes without saying. But I can square them not having a better draft pick because I don't know if Jordan Lewis is going to be back next year. I don't think any of us do. But I want who Jordan Lewis is to become something that everybody has within them in 2025 and beyond. It has to be something that is part of the foundation of who this next group becomes. I would bet that, Jordan Lewis probably benefits from who Orlando Scandrick was in that sense, right? Like, I know the Orlando Scandrick era is remembered in a, unique way, but I tell you what, Orlando Scandrick had some serious want to in him as well and hung around as long as he did for that specific reason. And if Jordan Lewis can instill that in Maris Liufau, in Marshawn Nealon, then I think that, the future is in a bright spot because of what Jordan Lewis has obviously done. Let's see. I see a LeBron comment. So I didn't mean to light that fuse. D. Hines forces, let's not forget, also an egocentric owner as well. And Mike McCarthy didn't quit on his players or franchise. We've seen many coaches quit in sports. Mr. Landry says, I will trade 2 Mikes, McCarthy and Zimmer, for 1 Mike Vrabel. Mr. Landry, all due respect, I could not disagree with you more. I really don't. Again, I think you want change. You just want a head on a stake. That's really all you want. And that's okay. Like, it's fair to want that when your team is mathematically eliminated before Christmas, because both Mikes had a hand in that, right? Like, we can't just sit here again and say that McCarthy and Zimmer are these victims and they did nothing wrong and whoa, the mean Joneses. That's not my point. My point, though, is that, man, this group was up against it. This group was in a foxhole, and this group was on an episode of Chopped, and they had Fruit Loops, baking soda, and my leftover root beer, and we're all sitting here going, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Like, they whipped something up that ain't half bad. All right, and I want to see more of that. I do. I mean, I think that you could contextualize it however you want. Obviously, the 12-5 seasons. Look, they didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't even get to the NFC Championship game. I understand all of that. But I tell you what, I think that, more than half of NFL teams would trade spots with who the Cowboys have been over the Mike McCarthy era. And again, that doesn't mean that the ultimate goal was accomplished. That's not my point. But games like tonight, games like Sunday night against Tampa are proof that the Cowboys have something going on that is worth building around. And that's important context to keep in mind, obviously, as we move forward. I tell you what, we're going to have a decision one way or another, right? We're going to have a decision soon because there's only 2 weeks left in the season. So, soon enough, brace yourselves. Make sure you have the Bleacher Report app because there's going to be all kinds of alerts coming down like crazy right after the new year hits. But speaking of, I will be here. I will be back in the Bleacher Report app and make sure what day it is. Look at my trusty planner here. I believe it's Thursday, the third day. Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time is when you can hang out with me once again here in the Bleacher Report app. If you miss it live, we'll throw it up on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. You can always rewatch it here in the Bleacher Report app. I'll also be with you after the game on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. If I don't talk to you between now and then, if you don't follow me on social media, again, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa, email is rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. If I don't see you between now and then, a very Merry Christmas from me and my family to you and yours. That I get to do what I do for a living is just such an incredible blessing for me. And you obviously think about things like that around this time of year. And so I'm extraordinarily grateful for each and every one of you, whoever takes time to hang out with me at any point, but certainly in live formats like this, to kind of offer our thoughts, our opinions, our wants, our wishes, our emotions in general about something that connects us and unites us, something that we have a lot of love and passion for in the Dallas Cowboys. So from my wife, my son, my 2 dogs, Bear and Honey, from all of us to all of you, whoever you are, wherever you are, however you are, and whoever you celebrate with, whatever it is that you celebrate, a very Merry Christmas. And if I don't even talk to you until then, and I'd be kind of offended, but a Happy New Year. A Happy New Year as well. So thank you all so much. Don't forget that tomorrow, Monday, not Christmas or Christmas Eve, it is Monday, December 23rd, is Victory Polo Monday. So put on a polo, a t-shirt, a hat, paint your nails, a scarf, socks. I don't care even if you don't have something on. Something Dallas Cowboys on. Take a selfie, tag me on social media, and write Victory Polo Monday because we're running out of these. And I promise you, as bad as this season was, we will miss it on some level. And so let's just soak it all up as much as we can together before it is fully, officially, completely, and formally gone. I love you all. Have a great rest of your night. Have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. And I will see you soon.